Ladies and gentlemen, what if everything you think about sleep is wrong? What if the hours you spend unconscious could actually rewrite your fears, your doubts, even your deepest limitations? And what if I told you there's a way to tap into that without lifting a finger? Sleep isn't just downtime. It's the one place where your mind has no walls, no resistance. For centuries, masters have used this vulnerable state to plant seeds of change, seeds that grow while the world is quiet. Tonight, you learn how to do the same. The subconscious doesn't sleep. You close your eyes at night and the world fades away. Or so you think. But there's a part of you that never rests while your body shuts down and your conscious mind drifts into darkness. Something deeper stays alert. It's always listening, always recording, always shaping who you are. This is your subconscious. And most people have no idea how much power it holds over their lives. Think about the last time you woke up with the sudden idea, a solution to a problem that felt impossible the day before, or a dream so vivid it lingered for hours as if it were trying to tell you something that wasn't random. That was your subconscious working silently while the rest of you was schizoid. It doesn't need rest because it operates differently, like a background program running on a computer. Never shutting off, always processing. The problem, most people treat sleep like a blank space, a pause between days. They filled their nights with distractions, scrolling through stress before bed, falling asleep to chaotic news, or letting unresolved worries churn in their minds. And the subconscious absorbs it all. It doesn't filter. It doesn't CH, it takes whatever you feed it and weaves it into the fabric of who you are. Fear, doubt, insecurity, they all find a home there if you let them. But what if you flip that? What if instead of feeding it noise, you fed it intention? Imagine planting a single thought, a single phrase like a seed in fertile soil. Over time, without force, without effort, it grows, it takes root, and suddenly you wake up different. Not because you tried harder, but because you allowed the deepest part of your mind to work for you, not against you. This isn't magic, it's science. Studies show that the brain replays the day's experiences during sleep, reinforcing neural pathways. What you focus on before bed gets amplified. Ancient traditions knew this. They used rituals, chants, prayers, rhythmic sounds to guide the subconscious toward healing or strength. Today we might call it reprogramming, but the principle is the same. The mind is moldable, especially when it's vulnerable, and sleep is its most vulnerable state. So how do you use this? Start small. Choose one idea, just one that you want to embed. Not a list, not a demand, a gentle suggestion. Something like, I am capable of calm, or answers come to me easily. Repeat it quietly as you drift off. Or even better, let a recorded voice carry it for you. So your conscious mind doesn't interfere. The tone matters. Soft, steady, like rain on a roof. No urgency, no force. The subconscious rejects aggression, but opens to repetition. And here's the secret. It's not about believing it yet. It's about exposure. You don't have to convince yourself you're fearless today. You just have to introduce the possibility to your subconscious night after night. Over time, it starts to accept it as truth. Because the subconscious doesn't argue, it doesn't debate, it only absorbs. This is why children who grow up hearing you're smart internalize it. And those who hear you're a failure carry that too. The words seep in shaping identity from the shadows. As adults, we can reclaim that power, not by fighting our thoughts, but by choosing which ones get repeated in the quiet. But patience is key. You won't wake up transformed after one night. This isn't a quick fix, it's a rewiring like training a muscle. It takes consistency. Miss a night, it doesn't matter. Keep going. The subconscious doesn't work on a schedule. It works on rhythm, and rhythm is built over time. Some nights you might forget, others you'll fall asleep too fast. That's fine. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Even if you only catch the edges of the message, it's enough. The subconscious hears what the conscious mind misses, and then one morning you'll notice it. A shift. Maybe a reaction that used to be anger is now patience. Maybe a fear that felt solid starts to crack. That's the seed breaking ground. That's your subconscious finally echoing back what you've been whispering to it all along. The 90-minute window. Sleep isn't one long, uninterrupted void. It's a series of cycles, each about 90 minutes long. And within those cycles, there's a moment, a window, where your brain is most open, most receptive, almost like a door left slightly ajar. If you know when that door opens, you can slip something inside. Not forcefully, not with effort, but with the precision of timing. This is why one night of good sleep can leave you refreshed while another leaves you groggy. It's not just about quantity, it's about quality, and the quality hinges on these 90-minute rhythms. Deep within them, your brain waves slow to what's called theta and delta states, frequencies where logic steps back and intuition steps forward. In these states, the critical doubting part of your mind is offline. What remains is pure receptivity. Ancient cultures didn't have EEG machines, but they knew they timed their rituals to match these windows, chanting at certain hours using drum beats, synced to natural rhythms. They understood that timing was the bridge between effort and effect. Today, we've lost that. We treat sleep as a monolith, a single block of time. But if you want to work with your mind, not against it, you need to respect its architecture. Here's how it works. In the first half of the night, deep sleep dominates. This is when physical restoration happens. Muscles repair, hormones balance, but it's also when the subconscious is most porous. As the night progresses, REM sleep dreaming takes over and the brain starts sorting memories, emotions, but that initial deep phase, that's the golden hour for reprogramming. So how do you use it? First, forget about controlling the exact minute. You don't need to just aim for the first few hours of sleep. If you're using audio, a voice, a tone, a frequency, set it to play on a loop for that duration. The content should be simple, repetitive, almost monotonous. Complexity is the enemy here. The subconscious thrives on patterns, not paragraphs. The mistake most people make is overloading it. They play hour-long tracks with affirmations, visualizations, demands. But the subconscious doesn't respond to lectures. It responds to whispers. A single phrase repeated every few minutes is far more powerful than a barrage of ideas. Think of it like a drop of dye in water. It spreads on its own. You don't need to stir violently. And then there's the sound itself. Not all frequencies work equally. Harsh, high-pitched tones can jolt the mind awake, even if you don't remember it. But low resonant sounds like the hum of a Tibetan bowl or the pulse of a heartbeat sync with the body's natural rhythms. They don't feel invasive, they feel familiar. That's the sweet spot. But here's what no one tells you. Silence between repetitions is just as important as the message itself. The subconscious needs space to absorb. If the audio is non-stop, it becomes background noise. Ignore. But when there's silence, a few seconds between phrases, the mind leans in. It waits. It listens. This is why guided meditations often fail for sleep reprogramming. They are too engaging, too narrative. The conscious mind starts following the story and the subconscious gets crowded out. What you want is something so simple, it barely registers. The voice doesn't fight your old beliefs. It just plants new ones beside them. And over time, the old ones fade, not because they were torn out, but because they were outgrown. So if you want to change something, your confidence, your patience, find the voice that carries it, not the one that shouts, not the one that pleads, the one that simply speaks as if it's already true. And then let it speak to you. When you're sleeping, when you're open, when you're ready. Because the voice that shapes you isn't the one you hear with your ears. It's the one you hear with your silence. Silence is the enemy. Most people think silence is peaceful. They think it's empty. They think when there's no sound, the mind rests. But that's not what happens. In silence, the mind doesn't rest, it wanders. And where it wanders is rarely helpful. Think about the last time you lay in bed in complete quiet. What happened? The thoughts came, didn't they? Old conversations replaying, future worries spinning, problems that seemed small in the daylight, suddenly feeling huge in the dark. This is what silence does. It doesn't bring calm. It brings chaos. Now imagine that same night, but instead of silence, there's a sound, not a distracting sound, not a loud sound, but something steady, rain maybe, or a low hum, or a slow repeating tone. What happens then? The thoughts don't disappear, but they don't spiral either. They're held gently by the rhythm of the sound. The mind stops racing and starts settling. This is why silence isn't always your friend, because the subconscious doesn't like emptiness. It fills it, and what it fills it with is usually whatever you've been ignoring. Fears, doubts, unresolved tensions. But when there's a sound, a gentle rhythmic sound, the subconscious latches onto that instead. It has something to follow, something to match. This isn't about drowning out your thoughts. It's not about running from them. It's about giving them structure. Think of it like a river left alone. Water spreads everywhere. It floods, it destroys, but with banks to guide it, it flows, it moves, it becomes useful. Sound works the same for the mind, and not just any sound. Sudden noises, a car honking, a door slamming, they startle, they pull you out of sleep. How? They make the mind tense. But steady sounds, rain waves, deep tones, they do the opposite. They pull the mind deeper, they slow it down, they create a space where thoughts can exist without taking over. This is why so many ancient practices use sound, chanting, drumming, bells. They knew what science is now proving, that rhythm synchronizes the brain, that certain frequencies trigger relaxation. That's the mind when given a steady pulse will follow it into stillness. But here's the key, the sound shouldn't have meaning. If it's words, if it's a song, the conscious mind gets involved. It starts interpreting, analyzing, and that's the opposite of what you want. You want the sound to be abstract, something the mind can't grab onto, can't think about, just a vibration, just a pulse. This is why white noise works for some people, but not others. It's too random, too chaotic. The mind tries to make sense of it, and that keeps it awake, but a low monotone frequency. The mind doesn't fight it. It doesn't try to understand it. It just lets it in. And then there's volume too loud and the sound becomes the focus. Too soft and it gets lost. The perfect level is just barely there. Enough to notice if you listen for it, but easy to ignore if you don't. It should feel like it's part of the room, part of the air, not something separate. So, if you've been struggling with sleep, with overthinking, with nights where your mind won't quiet down, try this. Don't chase silence, chase rhythm. Find a sound that feels like a heartbeat, like breath, like something alive but calm, and let it fill the space where the thoughts used to run wild. Because silence isn't peace, peace is sound. The right sound holding you steady in the dark, the lie of positive affirmations. There's a dangerous idea floating around that if you just repeat nice words to yourself enough times, your life will magically change. I am wealthy, I am perfect, I am fearless. Say it until you believe it, they tell you. But here's the truth. Your subconscious already knows words without roots don't grow, they wither. And when you try to force them, something in you resists. Not because you don't want to change, but because the mind can't be tricked into believing what feels like a lie. Think about it. If you're standing there shaking with fear, telling yourself, I'm fearless, doesn't help. It makes it worse. Because now there's not just fear, there's the added weight of failing at being fearless. The subconscious doesn't respond to commands, it responds to truth. And truth isn't about where you wish you were. It's about where you actually are and the next possible step from. This is why the most powerful phrases aren't the ones that declare perfection. They're the ones that acknowledge movement. I am learning. I am becoming. I notice when I react and I choose differently next time. These work because they leave room for where you are while pointing toward where you could go. They're bridges, not demands. The subconscious accepts them because they don't try to rip away its current reality. They simply add another possibility beside. The key is in the phrasing. I choose calm works better than I am always calm. Why? Because one is a decision you can make right now. The other is a state you might not feel. And the gap between the words and your reality creates tension. Tension makes the subconscious rebel. But when the words match your capacity in this moment, even if that capacity is small, the mind opens. It thinks, yes, I can choose. Maybe not forever, but right now I can. And that right now is where real change begins. This isn't about lowering standards. It's about understanding how growth actually happens. A seed doesn't scream, I am a tree, while it's still underground. It focuses on breaking its shell, on pushing through soil, on reaching for light 1 mm at a time. Your subconscious understands this language of gradual becoming far better than it understands sudden declarations. Meet it where it is and it will walk with you. Try to drag it where you think it should be, and it will dig in its heels. Try this tonight. Instead of I am confident, try I allow confidence to grow. Instead of I am successful, try I recognize my small wins. Feel the difference. One strains against reality, the other moves with it. And moving with reality is how you actually change it. The voice in your head at 3:0 a.m. knows the truth. It knows when you're lying to yourself. So stop lying. Start meeting yourself where you are. The words that work aren't the ones that sound impressive. They're the ones that feel possible, because possibility is what the subconscious can actually build on. Everything else is just noise. These are the cracks where the light gets in. They prove the seeds you've been planting are starting to grow. The changes will be subtle because the subconscious works in subtlety. It doesn't tear down walls with explosions. It loosens bricks one by one until one day you realize the wall is gone. This is why most people give up. They expect revolution and get evolution instead. But evolution lasts. Revolution burns out. Watch for patterns over weeks, not days. Some mornings you'll feel nothing. Others, you'll catch yourself doing something new without thinking. That's the subconscious at work. It changes you first where you're not looking. The moment you try to observe the change directly is often the moment it hides, so don't stare at it. Glance sideways. Notice what's different in your peripheral vision. Your body will often know before your mind does. You might wake up feeling lighter for no reason or notice your shoulders aren't as tense. The body registers subconscious shifts first because it doesn't filter through language. It just knows. This is why checking in physically matters as much as mental. How you carry yourself when you're not thinking about it tells the real story. And then there are dreams. They might become more vivid, or you might remember them more often. This isn't coincidence. It's the subconscious rearranging itself. And dreams are how it processes the material. Don't analyze them too much. Just notice if they feel different. That difference means something is moving below the surface. The real test isn't in some dramatic before and after. It's in the accumulation of small moments where life feels slightly easier than it used to. Where old triggers lose their sting. Where you catch yourself responding differently before you even decide to. These are the signs that count. They're quiet, but they're real, and they're how you know this is working. Not because someone told you it would, but because you can feel it in ways too subtle to explain, but too obvious to ignore. The one mistake that ruins everything. The modern world has conditioned us to expect everything immediately. A notification brings an instant message. A click delivers instant entertainment. A pill promises instant relief. So when we approach something as ancient and gradual as subconscious reprogramming, we bring these same expectations. And this is where everything falls apart. Impatience isn't just a minor obstacle. It's the wall that stops most people from ever reaching the other side. After 3 nights of listening to reprogramming audio, you might press your hands against your temples and demand, "Why don't I feel different yet?" This is like planting a seed in the morning and digging it up at night to check if it's grown. The very act of checking disrupts the process. Real change works differently. It happens in layers you can't see. While you sleep, while you go about your day, while you think nothing is happening, that's when the real work is being done. The subconscious moves at its own pace, like seasons changing or tides turning. You can't rush spring by pulling at buds. You can't force the ocean by pushing waves. This is why people fail. Not because the method doesn't work, but because they stop too soon. They treat it like medicine. Take once, expect immediate results. But this isn't medicine. It's more like learning a language. At first, you hear foreign sounds and understand nothing. Then one day, without noticing exactly when it happened, you realize you're comprehending whole sentences. The progress was happening all along, just beneath your awareness. The mind needs repetition to rewire itself. Not 5 repetitions, not 50, hundreds, thousands. The same way you didn't learn your deepest beliefs in a day. You won't unlearn them in a day. Every night you listen, you're not just adding something new. You're wearing down something old, like water dripping on stone. One drop does nothing. 10,000 drops carve a channel. The most powerful changes often come when you've nearly given up expecting them, when you've settled into the rhythm of the process without demanding proof. This is the paradox. By releasing your grip on outcomes, you allow them to arrive. The subconscious responds to consistency, not desperation. It yields to gentle persistence, not frantic effort. So when you're tempted to quit because nothing is happening, remember the very fact that you can't see the change proves nothing about whether it's occurring. The deepest transformations are invisible until they're complete. A caterpillar in its chrysalis looks like it's doing nothing at all until the moment it emerges transformed. Your mind works the same way. The key is to shift from watching the clock to trusting the process. Don't count the nights. Don't demand daily progress reports from your psyche. Simply show up night after night after night as if tending a garden you know will grow. Not because you see the growth each day, but because you understand nature's way. This patient showing up is the secret that most never discover, because they abandoned the work moments before the breakthrough would have come. What to listen to and what to avoid. Not all sounds affect the subconscious equally. Some open doors, others slam them shut. The difference lies in how the primitive parts of your brain interpret these sounds as threat or safety, as intrusion or invitation. Understanding this distinction makes all the difference between effective reprogramming and wasted nights. First, what to avoid. Anything that jolts sudden volume changes, sharp tones, loud bursts of sound. These trigger the brain's alarm systems, pulling you toward wakefulness, even if you don't remember it. The subconscious interprets abrupt noises as potential danger, making it withdraw rather than open. This includes many supposedly relaxing tracks that mix gentle sounds with unexpected chimes or bird calls. What seems pleasant to your waking mind can be disruptive to your sleeping awareness. Similarly, avoid voices that sound urgent or emotional. Even if the words are positive, an intense delivery puts the subconscious on guard. The tone matters more than the content. A forcefully delivered affirmation creates resistance, where a softly spoken suggestion might slip through the brainstem. Your most primitive neurological wiring responds first to how something is said, only later to what is said. The ideal sounds share three qualities: predictability, consistency, and low frequency. Predictability allows the mind to relax into the pattern rather than staying alert for changes. Consistency maintains an even keel without ups and downs that might stimulate rather than soothe. Low frequencies under 150 Hz resonate with the body's natural rhythms, syncing with your physiology rather than fighting against it. Monotone voices work best for verbal programming. Not robotic, but steady. Imagine how you'd speak to calm a frightened animal. Soft, even, unhurried. This is the voice that bypasses resistance. The pace should be slow enough to leave gaps between phrases. These silences are just as important as the words, giving the subconscious time to absorb without feeling crowded. Nature sounds can be effective if chosen carefully. Steady rain works better than birdsong. Ocean waves surpass babbling brooks. The key is avoiding nature's surprises. No sudden thunderclaps in your rainfall track. No seagull cries in your ocean waves. The sounds should form a predictable, unchanging background, not an engaging performance. Binaural beats require particular attention to frequency. Below 150 Hz encourages delta and theta brain waves, the states where subconscious reprogramming occurs most readily. Higher frequencies might keep the mind in lighter sleep stages where the critical faculty remains partially active. The tones should pulse gently, not sharply, like a heartbeat rather than a metronome. Volume matters. Think of it like cleaning a closet. You have to take everything out before deciding what stays and what goes. What feels like regression is actually everything coming to the surface for final review. The crucial practice during this intense period is observation without attachment. Don't clutch at pleasant experiences or push away unpleasant ones. Treat all of it as weather passing through the sky of your awareness. Clouds don't personalize their movement, and neither should you personalize these phenomena. They're signs of movement, not definitions of who you are. The more neutral you remain, the quicker each wave completes its work and moves on. Sleep during this phase may feel different, either much deeper or more restless than usual. Both are normal. The mind is doing heavy lifting below the surface, and like physical labor, this requires more energy at times. Trust your body's wisdom in asking for more rest or different sleep patterns during this transitional period. Fighting to maintain your usual schedule against these needs only prolongs the process. Perhaps most importantly, understand that this intensity is temporary. The subconscious works in cycles of activity and integration. After a period of strong effects comes a period of quiet assimilation. Neither state is permanent and both are necessary. Trying to maintain constant progress is like expecting a plant to grow visibly each day. Nature doesn't work that way. Growth spurts alternate with periods where all activity happens underground, unseen but no less vital. The final key, letting go. All of this, the careful selection of audio, the timing, the techniques ultimately leads to one simple but profoundly challenging realization. The less you do, the more gets done. The subconscious cannot be forced, only allowed. It cannot be commanded, only invited. Every attempt to control the process is actually an obstacle to the process. The final mastery lies not in perfect technique, but in releasing all need for mastery. This is the paradox that frustrates the logical mind. We want a step-by-step plan where X input guarantees Y output, but the subconscious doesn't operate on linear timelines or mechanical cause and effect. It's more like farming than manufacturing. You prepare the soil, plant the seeds, provide the right conditions, then step back and let nature take its course. Constantly digging up seeds to check their progress prevents the very growth you seek. Letting go begins with releasing expectations about how change should look and when it should arrive. Your conscious mind has ideas about what transformation ought to involve. Dramatic moments, obvious signs, clear milestones. The subconscious follows a different wisdom. Its changes often come so gradually you don't notice them until one day you realize you're different without being able to pinpoint exactly when or how it happened. The audio you play at night isn't a magic spell that rewires you through its own power. It's more like a tuning fork that invites your system to resonate at a different frequency. Whether and how your system responds depends on factors beyond your conscious control, the readiness of your psyche, the depth of old patterns, the unique timing of your inner wisdom. Your role isn't to dictate this process, but to create conditions where it can occur. Then get out of the way. This doesn't mean passive hoping. It means active allowing. There's a difference between neglecting the practice altogether and engaging with it fully each night before releasing attachment to outcomes during the day. One is abandonment, the other is trust. You continue showing up, continue the routine, but stop demanding receipts from your subconscious for work performed. A useful metaphor is falling asleep itself. You can't force yourself to sleep. The harder you try, the more elusive sleep becomes. Yet sleep comes naturally when you stop striving for it. Subconscious change works the same way. The more you anxiously check for results, the more you interfere with their emergence. But when you focus simply on the process while letting go of when and how results appear, they tend to arrive in their own perfect timing. This letting go extends to the content of the programming itself. Initially, people often load their audio with dozens of different affirmations covering every area they want to change. This scattergun approach comes from fear, the worry that if we don't cover everything, something important might get missed. But the subconscious responds better to focused, simple messages repeated consistently than to exhaustive lists. Choosing one or two core themes to work with at a time demonstrates trust that change in these areas will create ripple effects throughout your entire being. The practice of letting go ultimately becomes a meditation on faith. Not religious faith, but faith in the intelligence of your own psyche. Just as you trust your heart to beat and your lungs to breathe without conscious direction, you learn to trust your subconscious to process and integrate what it receives in the way that serves your highest good. This doesn't mean blind passivity, but wise cooperation. Doing your part in creating optimal conditions, then allowing the deeper intelligence within you to do what you cannot do through conscious effort alone. In the end, all techniques are simply fingers pointing at the moon. The real transformation comes not from perfect execution of methods, but from the space you create by getting out of your own way. When you stop trying to control every aspect of your growth, you discover that what you truly are needs no improvement. Only awakening, the audio, the practices, the routines, they're not changing you into something else. They're helping you remember what you already are beneath the accumulated layers of conditioning. And that remembering happens most completely, not through force but through surrender. You've just learned how to turn sleep into your ally. But knowing isn't enough. Tonight, choose one phrase, one sound, and begin. The mind is always listening, even when you've just learned how to turn sleep into your ally. But here's the thing, knowing isn't it. Understanding the science behind it, reading about the benefits, even nodding in agreement when someone tells you about the power of your subconscious mind, it doesn't change a single thing until you actually do it. Knowledge without action is like a key left on the table. It holds the power to open a door, but only if you pick it up and turn the lock. Tonight, I want you to choose one phrase, one sound, and begin. That's it. Not 10 things, not a complicated routine, just one small, deliberate choice. The mind is always listening, even when you're not aware of it. Even when you sleep, that's the beauty of it. Sleep is not the absence of awareness, it's the opening of a deeper one. When the conscious mind drifts off, the subconscious begins to take center stage, and that subconscious is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant there, it takes in without judgment. If you plant fear, it will grow it. If you plant peace, it will nurture it. This is why your one phrase matters. It's not about magic words, it's about focus. Maybe your phrase is, I am safe, or my body knows how to heal, or a tomorrow will bring new strength. Whatever you choose, it becomes the soft background music of your mind as you drift to sleep. It gives your subconscious something to work with, something constructive, instead of the usual replay of worries, regrets, or to-do lists. The sound you choose works the same way. It could be gentle rain, ocean waves, or calming instrumental music. Your brain loves rhythm and repetition. It relaxes when it senses a pattern. That's why lullabies work on babies. They soothe the nervous system. You're no different. Tonight, let your sound of choice be a cue, a signal to your body and mind that it's time to release the day and open the door to restoration. Here's what will happen when you do this. At first, it will feel simple, maybe even too simple. But night after night, your mind will start to associate that phrase and sound with safety, with calm, with sleep, and then something powerful shifts. You're no longer a passive participant in rest. You're shaping it. You're partnering with it. The difference between chaos and peace in your life often comes down to the things you do repeatedly. This is one of them. So tonight, choose your phrase, choose your sound, and begin. Your mind is listening. Your body is waiting. And the life you want might just start with the way you sleep tonight.